Welcome to Cocktails in the War Room, everybody. What's going on? It's Mistress Carrie. Welcome to the War Room, episode 239. Is that right? Episode 239 of the War Room, and happy 4th of July, everybody. So first of all, before we even get going on anything else, happy birthday, America. So wherever you guys are, whatever you're doing today, I hope you're doing it safely, and I hope you have all of your fingers. Yeah, exactly. What's up, Denise? Carol, Michelle's here. Kevin, Elsa, Lori joining us. Casey is here. What's up, Mark? Jessica and Brett are here as well. If you are new to Cocktails in the War Room, this is episode 239. We started doing this back on March 14th of 2020 at the very beginning of the pandemic. We sat down for 80 nights in a row and wrote out the craziest part of the pandemic together. Then in June of 2020, when we launched the Mistress Carrie podcast, we turned Cocktails in the War Room into a weekly show, which you can see every Tuesday night at 8:30 right here. Hey, be nice. I apologize for the tardiness. There's a lot going on in the house tonight. There's a baby in the house. So a couple things. First of all, I have some family that are staying at the house after a slight water emergency, and that included their dog, Charlie, who I don't think is going to crash the War Room. She's very shy. And my nephew, Dax, is here. So if you hear a baby in the background, it's because he's not even 8 weeks old yet, and he is so cute. And Wednesday has been the little nanny for the baby all afternoon. He's so cute, and it's pretty awesome to have a little one in the house. So, hey, back up. The other thing, you guys will remember that as we launched Cocktails in the War Room, one of the things that we did was start building MCHQ, and one of the people that helped me was Jim from RPM Dynamics, who helped to wire MCHQ and really custom build it. And Jim had a pretty serious illness over the weekend. And so I don't want to get into the specifics, but I want to send a bunch of love to Jim and his family because it got pretty scary there for a minute. But the doctors say he's going to be okay, which is fantastic. But he is such an integral part of the War Room, having literally with his bare hands helped to wire and construct MCHQ. So what are you doing? What is going on? For anybody that's new to the War Room, first of all, welcome. This is the room in my house where the bar is, but it's also where all my military stuff is, all of my family's military stuff, and it's where we gather whenever friends come to the house to kind of have a cocktail and hang out. So Cocktails in the War Room was actually something that we used to say long before the pandemic, and now we have our own t-shirts, which is kind of awesome. But we've been doing this episode, it's episode 239, like I said, and there's the War Room family, right? The OGs, the people that were there from the beginning. And then there's people that we've collected along the way. So if you are not an OG member of the War Room, maybe this is your first time in the War Room, you got to let us know in the comments that it's your first time. And also you got to let us know what you're doing right now and where you're watching from. It is the 4th of July. So there's a lot of people at barbecues right now. There's a lot of people waiting for fireworks. There's a lot of people working, so the rest of us can kind of goof off. So wherever you are, you got to chime in the comments and let us know what it is that you're doing. Travis says, go to Instagram, look up Wear Tulip, check out their God Bless America cover. Happy 4th of July. Big hugs to him and family, says Denise. Thank you very much. Let's see. Speedy recovery to Jim, says Donna. Thank you, Tracy. Whenever anybody that you really care about has that kind of a health scare, it's really this sobering thing where you're like, whoa, am I doing everything I can to try and protect my own health? Because as we've talked about through the pandemic, it doesn't really matter how old you are. We know people that were far too young that have passed, people that are far too young to have the illnesses and the accidents that they've had. And then, as we've discussed, usually the assholes live forever. So, anytime that you think that there's someone in your life that you could lose, it kind of smartens you up a little bit and kind of sobers you up to the point where like, you really shouldn't take any day for granted. And as anybody gets older in life, you obviously become wiser. And with that intellect and that brain power comes the realization that there's a lot of days that you may have wasted, a lot of words that you may have wasted. And so it's important to focus them on the people that are important. And so I try to be mindful of that more and more all the time. Now, if you are new to the War Room, allow me to introduce you to the pain in the ass of the show, Wednesday, the goth pug, right? Wednesday, who's been the Ed McMahon to my Johnny Carson, the peanut butter to my jelly, the Garth to my Wayne, riding out the pandemic, all of the episodes except when we take the show out on deployment because she's such a little, hey, will you back up? She's trying to get into my pocket because she knows that there's cookies in there. Don't you, Wednesday? Is that what you want? Is that what you want? Will you be good? And then I'll let you have cookies. There you go. She knows they're in my pocket. So she's just like nudging at my pocket. Let's see. Keith says, I'm from Brockton. We played every day during breakfast. I think I missed part of your... not the goth pug. Wednesday is the trained cutie, says Jessica. I want cookies too, says Mark. Yeah, she knows. And Charlie, the other dog that is that in the house right now, Wednesday like is so excited to have a friend, and Charlie's really shy, and she's just like, you're like a little much. So Wednesday, you've been a little much down. You've been a little much. You just need to chill. Charlie and Dax will hang out with you, but you need to chill, okay? You're on 10. You need to take it down to like a 4, right? Yeah. Donna says, hey, sweet girl. Happy 4th of July to the War Room family, says William. Jonathan says, I want cookies, lots of cookies. Jessica says, Wednesday wants the treats and the toys. Yeah, she 100% absolutely does. Playing gunshots or fireworks, says Keith. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. And one of the things that I've been trying to push on social media and remind everybody is, even if you think tonight especially that your dog is good with the fireworks and you don't need to have the dog on the leash, just please for tonight, just put the dog on the leash. The fireworks cause so many dogs to run away. And it always breaks my heart. And it always starts late night on the 4th and all through the 5th. You see these Facebook posts in the message boards for your town, or people that you're friends with that are sharing a friend's dog that got scared and ran away during the fireworks. And it always breaks my heart because all I can do is imagine Wednesday being outside in the dark alone with all of the things running around in the cars. And that's why her harness actually has, she just heard the fireworks just then. It's okay. It's okay. And I even have all the doors and windows closed. I turn the air conditioning on just to keep the booms a little bit softer, but there is somebody lighting off fireworks right now. So at least I hope they're fireworks. We could be playing gunshot or fireworks too. But even if it's just for tonight, put the dog on a leash, because you might think normally your dog's okay, and then somebody a little closer to your house than normal could light off some fireworks unexpectedly, and your dog could take off. And I could not imagine having Wednesday get spooked and get lost and not be able to find her. That would just completely freak me out. Right? Can I have your paw? Can I have the other paw? No, this one. Sit. That one. Yes, that one. Sit down. Can I have your high five? Okay, sit. There you go. Good girl. Did Wednesday do okay during the fireworks? She does not enjoy them. So I try to keep her as sheltered from them as I can. Last night, there were some fireworks going off, and I had some editing to do for this week's podcast episode that I'll tell you guys about in a minute. So I brought her into MCHQ, and it's soundproof in there. And so she was able to kind of avoid last night's fireworks, but we're right at that peak firework time right now. And because we're not in MCHQ, it is going to be possible for her to hear them a little bit more tonight. So, but she does not like them. They kind of freak her out. So extra cookies for Wednesday, says Carol. Keith says Jelly Roll is performing for the Macy's fireworks in New York City. Guys, did I not tell you about Jelly Roll a year and a half plus ago? Did I not tell you that this guy was going to be huge? Watching what Jelly Roll is making happen right now is so unbelievable to me. And you guys have heard me talk about whether it's Shinedown or Godsmack or Stained or any of the artists that I've been lucky enough to meet and really get to know before they were huge and famous. To be able to sit back and watch people that I know worked so hard and have gone through so much and sacrificed so much in order to get where they're going, and then to watch all of their dreams come true is such an unbelievable thing for me. So I'm so excited that he's been winning these awards. There's also a Lynyrd Skynyrd movie that's coming out at the end of the week celebrating 50 years of Lynyrd Skynyrd, and it actually is Gary Rossington's final performance with the band that was recorded at the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville. And Lynyrd Skynyrd is releasing that live concert in theaters, drive-ins, that kind of stuff at the end of this week. And there are cameo appearances, including John Osborne from the Brothers Osborne, Brent Smith from Shinedown, and Jelly Roll are all making appearances. So to see Brent and Jelly Roll, who obviously are very good friends and people that we have watched rise and have their careers become bigger and bigger, it's really unbelievable. And I told you guys when we started the War Room, and especially when we launched the podcast, that one of the things I always loved about my job at WAAF, and one of the things I was so afraid to lose, was the ability to help people find these amazing new artists that we were able to do over the years at WAAF. And that was one of the things that when we built the podcast and kind of sat down with the mission statement that the podcast was supposed to keep you in touch with the artists you love, but also introduce you to artists that you may not have heard of yet, and also for you to get to know these artists in a way that you normally wouldn't. So for you to be able to hear the conversations that would happen in the studio when the mics were off, or backstage at concerts after the show in the dressing room. And so to be able to turn you guys on to some of these newer artists, which is something I'm going to do this week on the new episode, the fact that you guys are embracing these artists and giving these artists a chance and then watching their careers get bigger and bigger, you guys are part of that too. Christine says, love Jelly Roll. Jessica says, kind of reminds me of Chris Stapleton. Yeah, Jelly Roll's got that it factor. Whatever that it thing is, he has it. His song, I Need a Favor, is so relatable to me, says Mark. Brent Smith is so absolutely talented, says Jessica. 100%. Jonathan says Belinda Carlisle is live at the Capitol on the 4th of July, which is pretty spectacular as well. Watching the Go-Go's get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, like growing up, there were those women for me, right? There was Stevie Nicks, who I just always thought was amazing. But then there were, artists like the Go-Go's and Joan Jett, Lita Ford, that for a little girl like me made me believe that women could be rock stars. And so to see Belinda Carlisle and the Go-Go's not only get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but also to have this unbelievable career resurgence has been pretty spectacular as well. What's up, Steve? Pam says, oh, Brent with the little purple hearts. Okay, sit down. This is it. This is the last cookie. Can I have your paw? Can I have the other one? Can I have a high five? No, that was a bad high five. I want a good high five. High five. Good girl. Sit down. That's it. There's no more cookies. That's it. The pocket's empty. Okay, all gone. All gone. A heart, Tracy, exactly. Seeing the Wilson sisters, absolutely. Especially Nancy Wilson, because you didn't see a lot of women shredding guitar solos. And so to see these women the first rock star that I ever met at WAF, I had been an intern for a matter of weeks. And my first day as an intern was Extreme versus the WAF DJs in celebrity softball. But the first rock star that I met in the halls of WAF was Joan Jett. Ryan says, Lita Ford is playing at the Cabot in Beverly. There have been a lot of people that have been playing at the Cabot in Beverly. Tons of shows. I always put those shows up on the event calendar at mistresscarrie.com too. Mark says, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl. Brent, he was trying out the New England accent, and he got the hang of it well because I heard Matt Damon do an interview recently that he broke down the New England accent from an actor's perspective, which I thought was really interesting, that obviously New Englanders, specifically Bostonians, drop their R's. But he said when a word ends in a vowel and the next word starts in a vowel, an R gets added. So that's why Brent Smith was like, go put your bra on, because there's an R that gets added between bra and on because of the two vowels next to each other. And when he described that, I went back and listened, and I was like, yeah, we do add the R as a bridge between two vowels. That is how we do. Pat Benatar, absolutely, Donna, same thing. Christine says, I went to that softball game. So Christine, that was my first day as an intern, July 1st, 1991, because I know the date because I have the shirt still, which is, by the way, a little piece of trivia, the shirt I was wearing the last night WAF was on the air. So it was the shirt I got the first day I was at WAF, and it's the shirt I wore on the last day at WAF. But one of the things that happened at that Extreme Celebrity Softball game, there were 3,500 people there. It was in Hudson, which is, ground zero for Extreme fans. Half the Betancourt family is from Hudson. And the engineer from WAF that was putting a tent over the broadcast equipment went to bang the tent stake into the field and hit the irrigation line and flooded the field 45 minutes before the game was supposed to start. And that guy still works for the company, and every time we see him, we still make fun of him for it. And it was 32 years ago now, which is kind of crazy. Jessica said, my dad is from New Jersey, so he lost his accent when he moved to Virginia. It is easy to lose the accents, but it's so easy to get them back. For me, the more I drink and the more angry I get. So if I'm drunk and angry, the accent is departed, right there. But I can get rid of it too. David said, Pat Benatar played the old Cinema Lounge down at the mall next to the Tiki Hut. Oh my God, the Tiki Hut. There were some good times at the Tiki Hut. You were always on the rock bus, says Christine. Well, I was doing whatever they told me to do. So I was either the intern or in 94 when I got hired on the street team, that was our job to deal with the broadcast or help hand stuff out or whatever. Those were some good times. Stressful times, late nights a lot of the time, but really fun. Jessica says Sully still has his Boston accent. Well, part of the reason is that he's surrounded by a bunch of people that are also from New England. And Sully is the only member of Godsmack that has not moved out of New England permanently. The other guys have all moved to Florida. Sully moved down there temporarily, but he still has a house here and is here a lot of the time. So, and his family's all here. So the accent's not going anywhere anytime soon. Brett says, I went to school in Michigan and lost my accent. It is easy to lose, but as you heard on last week's podcast episode, when I talked to Marty O'Brien, even though he's a Pawtucket, Rhode Island guy, he's been in LA for a long time and people still tell him that he's got an accent. So speaking of the podcast, all right, let's go through some of the business stuff with the show because I want to get to the podcast. So first of all, I want to remind you guys about some of the events that are coming up with the Pike. The quickest thing as far as Pike events go, August 19th at Indian Ranch, the 2023 Hair Fest. this year's headliners, the Metallica cover band or tribute band, I should say, the Four Horsemen. Then Rockfest is happening September 9th. Love Sexy, the Prince tribute band, is headlining that one. Both of those shows at Indian Ranch, both of those shows up on the events calendar at mistresscarrie.com. Speaking of the Pike, the Pike's 19th birthday bash is going to be at Indian Ranch coming up September 2nd with the one and only George Thorogood and the Destroyers, who are celebrating 50 years of rock. And a little birdie told me that George Thorogood might be making an appearance on the show very soon. So be listening for that. Might not be a full-length episode. If I can't get him for a full episode, I will put him up as a bonus episode. So be on the lookout for George Thorogood on the podcast. And coming up quick this week, I am going to be once again live from Polar Park this Thursday. And Throwback Thursday this week, Red Sox legend Oil Can Boyd is going to be joining me on the show. I'll be broadcasting live from the Shearwood Diner at Polar Park in Worcester on 100 FM The Pike from 3 to 7 this Thursday. So if you got the week off and you're looking for something awesome to do, tickets to the Woo Sox games are super affordable, really family friendly. They've got great food there. Wormtown Brewery has got the brewery and the tasting room right inside the park. We'll be broadcasting live from in there, and you can come and meet Oil Can Boyd. Had a little bit of technical difficulties. If you're joining me from the greater Portland area, a massive power outage in Portland took the station off the air for hours today. So I was supposed to be on the air up at the Bone today, but they had a ton of technical difficulties that were compounded by the fact that it was a holiday and nobody was in the offices. And so the engineers all got called back in and were able to get the power to the building, the power to the station, the transmitter, everything back up and running, but not before we canceled my show for the day. So if you normally listen to 106.3 The Bone in Portland, Maine, that is why I wasn't on the air today, but I'll be back on the air tomorrow. If you're new to Cocktails in the War Room, every Tuesday night, we give you a different cocktail recipe. And I got one of the amended recipe books from the Rising Eagle last week when we took the show out on deployment. So you may notice that my shirt this week, I wanted to wear something that got sent to me from Iraq. So you can see that it says Operation Iraqi Freedom, and it has the cross swords from Baghdad, which if you go to my Boston to Baghdad photo gallery on my Facebook page, I actually took pictures under those cross swords. So I wanted to wear the Baghdad Harley Davidson, which there isn't one, but they made t-shirts anyway, and somebody sent me one. So there was a tribute to the guys I met in Baghdad, also a tribute to the guys I met in Afghanistan, a little vodka soda, but I didn't have limes, and I forgot to buy limes before the holiday, so a little vodka soda tonight to switch things up. And I just spilled vodka soda down my shirt. So I wanted to read something else in tribute to my guys from the Deuce, since it is the 4th of July. This one is called the Regimental Spirit Company Nations First, which is the Mass Army National Guard. 2 ounces of regimental American whiskey, 1.5 teaspoons of absinthe, a sugar cube, or 1 teaspoon of granulated sugar, and 4 dashes of bitters. It says, muddle the sugar with the bitters in a mixing glass, put in a few ice cubes into the mixing glass, and then stir in the whiskey. Pour the absinthe into a cocktail glass, and then rinse it around inside and pour it out, and then strain the whiskey mixture into the cocktail glass. Garnish with a lemon twist. So you're basically like coating the inside of the glass with the absinthe, not shaking the ingredients. I don't know how that changes the taste. I am not a mixologist. I just read the recipes to you, but there you go. Garnish with a lemon twist. So that is the Regimental Spirit Company Nations First, and it was created by the regiment. Okay, let's talk about last week's podcast episode. We hinted to it a little bit, talking about Marty O'Brien, who is a a friend of mine for a very long time. We talked a lot about when we met, how we met on this week's episode. And Marty O'Brien, a local guy, if you remember in the mid to late 90s, the local Rhode Island band Kilgore that ended up on the Ozfest. We talked a lot about that. Marty was in Kilgore and then ended up playing bass for Methods of Mayhem for Tommy Lee. Then he ended up playing for Tommy Lee's solo band. He ended up filling in for Static X and Disturbed. He played with Lita Ford for 10 years, and now he's the bass player in Daughtry. And those trips that I go to in Vegas all the time that I'm always taking you guys with me, part of the reason that I always go to those industry events in Vegas, A, it's Vegas. B, I always get to see a ton of new bands at these showcases that before their records come out, before the press releases go out, the record companies bring them to play for all of these radio people, which is what happened with the artist that's going to be on this week's episode of the podcast. But it also gives me a chance to bump into old friends. So I got to bump into Brad, the original bass player from Shinedown recently in Vegas, Wayne Swinney from Saliva before he passed away. And I turn around and literally bumped into Marty O'Brien in Vegas. And we hung around for like a couple of hours. And I was like, dude, will you please come on the podcast? We have so much to talk about. And he was like, absolutely, 100%. So just getting to hear his side, that rather than coming up through the ranks of rock and roll with the same band, he kind of shows a different side to being a musician in the way that you can kind of make it, which is to be that fill-in guy and to be that session player. You heard in the episode that he's played bass for people like Chris Cornell in recording sessions. He's played for Celine Dion. He's played for Kelly Clarkson. And so he's a touring musician, but he is also a very established session musician. And just talking to him about the experience of being a New Englander and moving to Los Angeles, that no matter how long he's been gone, he said in the episode, people still tell him that he's got an accent. Lisa says, it was great and very long, but was awesome. Sometimes the episodes are long, sometimes they're really short. It depends, I think, on how well I know the person and how much time they have to give me. And so, you know, when I'm setting up these interviews, I always say, look, you know, I would love 20 to 30 minutes minimum. Most of the time they're like, yep, no problem. Sometimes they're like, we can give you 45. There are other times, like my guest this week, that I didn't really know beforehand, seen live, but never really spent any time with on a personal level. And I just said, hey, you know, what time do I need to let you go? And my guest this week was like, whenever. And that's what Marty said. He was like, I don't have anywhere to go. I blocked off the afternoon for you so that we could just talk as much as you want. Paula says, absinthe will make you see leprechauns. Ooh, I got the hiccups. Challenge accepted. I've never seen a leprechaun. I would like to, at least once in my life. Put that on the bucket list. I get the hiccups. Hold on. Is there a word you can say to get rid of the hiccups? I know you can stop sneezing by saying cucumber over and over again. My grandfather taught me that. The holding the breath thing doesn't work. The blocking the nose and drinking thing doesn't work for me. Once I get the hiccups, I get the hiccups. Wednesday, come here. Jessica says, Chris Cornell has such an amazing voice, and so did Chester Bennington. Yeah, both. And I loved Marty's story about walking into the recording studio, getting hired to just play bass on a track, and walking in and not only finding out that it was a Chris Cornell track, but that Chris Cornell was there recording while he was there, and then finding out that it's a Chris Cornell song that he actually let another artist record, and it was one of the American Idol winners or finalists or whatever. There was no Celine Dion on the playlist. There wasn't? Did I not put Celine on the playlist? That is a faux pas on my part. I was supposed to put Celine on the playlist. I can't believe I didn't. Suck in the air and swallow, forces the burp, solves the hiccups. Tracy says, try putting your fist under your diaphragm and exhaling. Really? It's like the Heimlich maneuver. Lisa says, have someone scare you. Brett says he's got Pat Badger's bass. Yeah, so if you didn't hear that part of the episode, the bass that he plays most often, the bass that he played all through Kilgore, he actually bought off of Pat Badger and tells the whole, Pat Badger from Extreme, and he tells the whole story on episode 160. So if you haven't heard the episode, you definitely got to check it out. Jessica says on July 20th, it will be 6 years since Chester Bennington has been gone. It does not seem possible to me that Chris and Chester have been gone that long. It just doesn't seem possible. Jonathan says Madonna is sick. Hope she gets well soon. Yeah, Madonna ended up in the ICU collapsing. She was severely dehydrated, suffering from exhaustion. She had to be intubated. She was in the ICU for a few days. She has since been released. She is home and resting, but it looks like they're going to have to postpone the start of her tour. And rumor has it from all the articles that I was reading, she just worked herself to exhaustion getting ready for the tour. So if you want to get rid of the hiccups, you need to remove your shirt and do 15 jumping jacks. Keith, I'm not falling for that again. I fell for that 6 times already. My husband tried to get me to get rid of the hiccups that way. It doesn't work. I can tell you firsthand. Jessica says it's not possible that the 2 best singers are gone. Yeah, it really is crazy. And, you know, it's one of those things going back to earlier when we were talking about having, you know, friends have, you know, medical scares and stuff, that you really do realize how much you value people. And I remember, you know, there have been so many artists that have passed while I've been on the air, while I've been a DJ. You know, everybody from, you know, Neil Peart and Charlie Watt more recently, to Chester and Chris Cornell, to, you know, Lane Staley, Dimebag Darrell, Vinnie Paul, Scott Weiland. There are so many artists that we love that we have had to talk about on the air when the news broke that they passed. Chris Cornell, even more so for me than Chester Bennington. Chris Cornell and Dimebag Darrell, and we've talked about this on the podcast, are the 2 that really hit me hard because they had been in the studio so many times. Dimebag, just because I had the opportunity to socialize with him as much. That's what we're calling it, socialize, by the way. Basically getting drunk and doing dumb things together. Chris Cornell, it was more for me, not only, you know, did I interview him several times, but that he had been so candid about his mental health struggles in those interviews, number 1. And number 2, his lyrics, the same thing with Chester in this respect. Everything they battled in their life was in the lyrics if you just stopped long enough to really pay attention. And I was always such a huge Soundgarden fan that it was, I mean, all the way back to seeing them open up for Guns N' Roses on the Use Your Illusion tour at the old Worcester Centrum. Like, it was just gutting for me. And I remember, like, uncontrollably, like, sobbing. And there are artists that I know that are still with us, thankfully, that I am going to have that reaction to eventually. I think somebody like Robert Plant, I think somebody like Ozzy, Paul and Ringo, just because I associate Beatles music so closely with my mom, as comes up on the podcast more and more, that as these legendary artists get older, but in their case, they've been around a long time. With Cornell, it was one of those things where it was like gone way too soon. And those, when I went with Stiz to LA and we went and saw Chris Cornell's grave, which I talked about with Chris Voss from the record company last week and with Marty O'Brien this week, it was very sobering to see Chris Cornell's name on the stone. It was like kind of took my breath away a little bit. Tracy says, Mr. Bag. Yeah, that'll be a story that I will tell about my mom for like the rest of my life, 100%. Ozzy's still amazing. Jessica, absolutely. But an artist that literally, like, I don't remember there being a part of my life that Ozzy wasn't the soundtrack of, all the way up to the last night of WAF and everything in between. So Keith has to stand a mile away just to light the fireworks. Chester had a hard time when Chris passed away. Yeah, they were really close. And, I think that whenever you've got people that are like-minded and fighting the same battle, as Chris and Chester probably talked about in private a lot, that when Chris was gone, Chester was like, well, how am I supposed to do this without him? So just very sobering, just brutal. So a lot of things got talked about with my very good friend, Marty O'Brien. I loved a lot of his behind the scenes Ozfest stories as well, the Sharon Osbourne stories, just all of the perspective stories that only someone who's kind of been roaming around backstage at these festivals and in the recording studios could share. So if you have not listened to the Marty O'Brien episode yet, even if you're not a Daughtry fan, just go back and listen to the episode because he's had stories about everybody. The episode this week, episode 161, is one of those newer artists that I want to turn you guys on to. He's an artist that I have seen play a couple of times in Vegas at those showcases, and more recently saw him open up for Bad Flower up in Portland, Maine. And once I saw him with a real rock crowd, not a cynical industry crowd, but a real rock crowd, I said, okay, I've got to get him. I've got to get him on the show. So I'm talking about Des Rocks, and he's got a new album coming out. His sophomore album is coming out on August 25th. It's called Dream Machine. And Des Rocks is a guy that really is throwing it all in the soup. It's really hard to pinpoint the influences because he's pulling from a lot of different places. He's pulling a little Springsteen. He's pulling a little Elvis. He's pulling a little Who. He's pulling a little Black Keys. It's all of this stuff, but as a three-piece, so he is the lead guitar player and the lead singer. I talk about it in the episode. I love to go to shows early and watch the openers try to win over the crowd of the headliner. Because when you go to a show, more often than not, everybody in the room is there to see the headliner. There are people, and that's why the openers get put on there, because the headliners want to help draw other people into the shows. But most of the people in the crowd are there to see the headliner. And so I always like going and see the openers because they've really got to work hard to convert the crowd. Stories are famous of openers that had to go through hell opening up for Metallica in their heyday. The Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All, when Metallica fans were like carving Metallica into their skin with knives in the audience. It can be really hard to be an opening act. And so when I went to go see Bad Flower in Portland recently, I went early to watch Tiger Cub, who were great. But every other time I had seen Des Rocks, I had seen him in Vegas in front of an industry crowd, meaning radio programmers, record company people, band managers, radio DJs, just industry people that are really those cynical, kind of like Metallica fans that are just like, I'm probably not going to like you, but go ahead. And I thought he was great then. Seeing Des Rocks in front of a sold out rock crowd made me a diehard fan. By the end of his set, everybody in the crowd had their cameras up and were videoing him. His energy level is unbelievable. He won every single person over in the crowd, and the show was awesome. And this is an artist that, as he gets ready to release his second album, this is the time in a new artist's career where they've made a little bit of a name for themselves with their debut album. But, you look at bands like Bon Jovi, where they didn't really get famous until the third record. You look at Def Leppard, who were huge with High and Dry, On Through the Night, even Pyromania, but really became huge when Hysteria got released. It's really hard for artists to make it to the third or fourth record with a record company. And so with Des Rocks' sophomore album coming out in August, I was like, you know what? Anybody that's never heard of him before, anybody that's never listened to the music before, I really want to make sure that people that listen to the podcast, that join me here in the War Room, get exposed to him as an artist, because he's a fantastic performer. He's a great guitar player, and he's an even better guy. And you'll get to know him on this week's episode. There's definitely pop elements in there, but he is rock through and through. He's a New York guy, so we talk a little bit about Sox Yankees. We talk a little bit about East Coast versus West Coast, which I talked a little bit with Marty O'Brien about last week. But this is an artist, like I told you with Jelly Roll, like I've told you so many times in the past with some of the artists that I've turned you on to. This guy you need to get to know, because he is awesome. And you are going to become a fan. His latest single has definitely got a little bit of Who vibe, which is very cool, but he doesn't sound like that on every song. Every song is different. Sometimes there's a little rockabilly, there's a little, greased back pompadour, like T-Birds in Grease kind of a vibe. There's a little Elvis swagger to him sometimes. There's that straight ahead rock and roll working class guy Springsteen thing. But then there's a little bit of the alternative kind of Black Keys kind of thing going on as well. And some of the songs are big kind of rock pop records like Imagine Dragons. And the band's only a 3-piece and they're great. So please do me a favor and definitely check out this week's episode. You may or may not have heard of Des Rocks before, but I think if you give him a chance, you listen to the interview, which is super entertaining because we talk about all kinds of stuff. And then you go and listen to the playlist and listen to his music. He's great. Mark Bishop says, I've seen him on YouTube and he is amazing. I'm telling you guys, even if you're somebody that likes more classic rock stuff and you're not really as open to some newer music as maybe some younger people are, this is an artist that has enough flavoring from flavors you would recognize without being derivative. He's definitely not copying anyone. He's definitely putting the same ingredients of rock and roll into the stew, but mixing it up differently, and it tastes different. And to come from someone in this next generation of rock, which we talk about in the episode, this resurgence of rock, this whole new generation that are grabbing the flag and charting it forward, where they're incorporating older sounds with newer sounds and doing things differently. I think you guys, if you give him a chance, are going to love him. And I was really excited that he said yes to coming on the podcast. So I think that you guys are definitely going to become fans for sure. So Rachel says, I can never find the playlist. Or Rachel, they're linked in the show notes of the podcast episodes. So if you are listening on Apple, if you go into the notes section, there's links there. There's a link to the playlist. You can always find my links. If the artist is promoting a show coming to the area, I'll link there to buy tickets. All of my links are in there. All the Des Rocks links are in there. So it depends on where you're listening to the podcast. But if it's on the big ones, Spotify, Apple, Google, if you look in the notes or more info section, there should be a whole section with all of the links. And one of them should open a playlist in Spotify and all of the music. So even if you're listening to the podcast in Apple, the link will open up your Spotify and the playlist will be right there for you. So that, Rachel, that's where you can find the playlist. Let's see. Jessica says, did you hear about Julian Sands, who was found dead at 65? Yeah, Julian Sands, the actor who was in a lot of different stuff, including Boxing Helena, that super controversial movie when it came out. He went hiking earlier this year and disappeared, and some hikers just found his remains months later, which was really sad. That his family has been searching for him for months, and then they find him, alone because of a hiking accident. Rachel says that explains it. I usually just listen to the podcast. So Rachel, when you're listening to the podcast, look down in whatever format, wherever you're listening to the podcast, and you should be able to open up the podcast in Apple or Google and you'll see all of the links right there. To make it easier for you to find the artist that I'm talking to. So their website, all their social stuff, links to whatever. Des Rocks and I actually had a pretty extensive conversation about this documentary. It's not even a music documentary. It's just a documentary that the two of us both saw. And it was such a powerful documentary that I want everyone to watch it. And I put the link in the show notes so that you guys could find the documentary easier. So episode 161 of the Mistress Carrie podcast features Des Rocks. The episode goes live at midnight. And if you have not yet subscribed to the Mistress Carrie podcast, not only do you get the weekly episodes every Wednesday, but you also get the sit rep. Even today on the 4th of July, you get the situation report, which has got all of your music headlines, the rock news, the entertainment updates, streaming updates, movie news, television stuff, concert announcements, album release dates, all of that stuff. And it's right around 5 minutes long, and you get that 5 days a week. So if you're looking for the podcast, in case you guys missed the announcement, Stitcher is actually shutting down. So if you normally listen to the podcast on Stitcher, they're actually shutting down Stitcher as a podcast outlet. And you can listen to the Mistress Carrie podcast there, but not for much longer. But all of the places that you can hear the Mistress Carrie podcast are linked at mistresscarrie.com. You can now hear the episodes on YouTube, and there are embedded players at mistresscarrie.com, so that even if you don't even know how to listen to podcasts, just go to my website, find the episodes you want to listen to, and then just click play. Melissa says, MC, I tried the blueberry cobbler moonshine, and oh my effing God, I need you to get some. I will. It will be the official drink of the War Room. Melissa, don't threaten me with a good time. I am not afraid. Can't believe Clarence Thornton has been gone almost 5 months. He would have been 102 in 4 days. Michelle, that is so crazy that it's been that long already. It's just unbelievable. So definitely find the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, or just go straight to mistresscarrie.com and you can find it right there. And we're still holding out strong at 149 countries. We have definitely hit the country wall. We're at 149 countries. There are obviously more countries to go. The shades of yellow, the darker they are, the more people are listening. So you can definitely see places like Brazil, Australia, India, places in Europe. Obviously, the United States and Canada are definitely hotbeds of the Mistress Carrie podcast. But we're always looking to add more people into the Mistress Carrie podcast family. If you're celebrating your birthday today, cheers to you. Also, happy 41st wedding anniversary to the aforementioned Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne, celebrating 41 years of not so wedded bliss today. So happy anniversary to Ozzy. And if you're celebrating your birthday today, you share your birthday with Post Malone, Bill Withers, Michael Sweet from Stryper, and also William Goldsmith, who is the original drummer from the Foo Fighters. He played with the Foos from 94 to 97. So happy birthday to you. Happy unbirthday, Keith, if you're celebrating your birthday. And once again, cheers to America celebrating its birthday today as well. Donna says, how's your Uncle Froggy? I just got word that I'm going to be going back to Vegas later this year for work. And so I am hoping to be able to go and see Uncle Froggy again when I go out there. I have not spoken to him recently, but last time I talked to him, he was good. So yeah, all good as far as I know. But yeah, I definitely am going to try and go and see him the next time I'm out in Vegas, because he's a couple hours away from Vegas, but is willing to make the ride to see me. All right, let's talk about some music headlines. The new Stained album, the highly anticipated first Stained album in 12 years, Confessions of the Fallen, coming out in September. The new song, Lowest in Me, the video is out now. Don't forget Stained touring with Godsmack this summer, and they've got a couple of dates scheduled, including one up in Maine and also one at the Xfinity Center that we'll talk about in a little bit. The Dropkick Murphys have got tour dates in Maine, in New Hampshire, and Connecticut. The final Candlebox studio album is called The Long Goodbye. It's coming out August 25th, which is the same day as the Des Rocks record. So that's going to be a good day to make sure you're going and buying some vinyl perhaps. But Candlebox's last album, The Long Goodbye, coming out this August. Corey Taylor's new album, CMF2, is coming out on September 15th. Also, come on, you can do it. Why aren't you changing? Change. There we go. Shows coming to the TD Garden. Greta Van Fleet, that show completely sold out on September 15th. Queen and Adam Lambert sold out October 15th. And still tickets available for the second show at the Garden, October 16th. Aerosmith at the Garden with the Black Crowes on New Year's Eve. Those tickets are available now. And also Tool is going to be at the Garden coming up on November 15th. Tool has got 3 New England shows, including Bank of New Hampshire Pavilion. They're going to be at Mohegan, and they're going to be in Boston. Big Night Live has got Thrice. They're going to be playing on October 11th. Those tickets are on sale now. Also, the Xfinity Center, very busy this year. Everybody, these are all coming up fast. Actually, past. Dave Matthews, I thought I pulled that one out of there. Avenged Sevenfold is coming up on July 19th. By the way, if you want to win Avenged Sevenfold tickets here in the War Room tonight, do not go anywhere because I got tickets for the War Room coming up. Bret Michaels Party Gras, Godsmack and Stained, like I was telling you, Mudvayne at the end of July. Look at those shows just this month. Then Jelly Roll, Foreigner, Disturbed, Ghost, Nickelback, Offspring, Shinedown, Papa Roach, Spirit Box. We're going to be busy at the Xfinity Center for the rest of the year. And not just at the Xfinity Center, but so many shows, including the Hollywood Vampires, who are going to be at the Box Center Wang Theater at the end of July. They had to postpone that show from the end of May due to Johnny Depp's bum leg. Extreme and Living Color, August 5th at Roadrunner, and Wilson at the Wilbur, August 27th. Tool, like I was telling you, the SNHU Arena, November 13th. Mohegan Sun on November 10th. All of these shows have gone on sale already. Then there's the sold out Sleep Token show. That's going to be at the Palladium on September 12th. And the mighty return after 5 years, the New England Metal and Hardcore Festival coming back to the Palladium. This time, the Palladium Outdoors, Parkway Drive, headlining Friday night, September 15th. And then we've got Lamb of God, Hatebreed, and Shadows Fall headlining on Saturday night, September 16th. Those tickets are on sale now, and all of these shows on the event calendar at mistresscarrie.com. Here are the shows coming up at the MGM Music Hall. Everybody from Yellow Card and Noel Gallagher to Newfound Glory, Mastodon and Gojira. 2 shows, Billy Idol, Danzig, 3 Days Grace and Chevelle, Motionless in White. And I've got tickets for a lot of these shows for Backstage Pass members. But every once in a while, I like to bring shows into the War Room as well. So, and coming up on the 18th, the Struts are going to be at the House of Blues. Asking Alexandria and The Who with Bad Wolves and 0936 are going to be at the House of Blues on September 12th. And Corey motherfucking Taylor on September 13th. All of those tickets are on sale as well. New releases this week. It's a little bit of a slow week for releases only because of the holiday week, but Nita Strauss, her new album, The Call of the Void, that features everybody from Alice Cooper to Dorothy to David Draymond to Lizzie Hale to Chris Motionless. So many people making cameo appearances on her album, Call of the Void. That is coming out this Friday. And also Yellow Card releasing their new EP coming up this Friday. Mail call this week. Obviously, I couldn't check the mail today because it's a national holiday. However, if you were trying to watch the War Room last week, just a little side note that I think we killed the Wi-Fi at the bar last week, and that's why we got kicked off of the internet and why Cocktails in the War Room, the stream stopped early last week. However, we recorded the episode, which is now posted up on YouTube. So if you do want to go back and watch the rest of last week's episode and finish up my interview with General Jack Hammond, who is the executive director of the Home Base program, it is up at mistresscarrie.com and also on my YouTube channel. But after last week's event, they raised so much money for the Home Base program that I got a little thank you gift from Eric from Regimental Spirit Company and Juliet, who helped to put the event on last week. It said, thanks so much again for supporting us at the Rising Eagle. You made the whole event, and the fundraising was a huge success. Thanks a million, from Eric and Juliet. And I wanted to show you what they sent me. Have you ever seen roses like this? They got them, and this is not a paid advertisement, from youflowers.com. I don't know what they call these roses, but look at the colors. Are these not the most unbelievable things you've ever seen? And it comes in a custom vase or a vase that has the War Room logo in it, which I thought was really cool. It's basically like a waterproof liner that goes inside the glass, but I thought this was really, really sweet and a wonderful thank you, which was not necessary, but I had never in my life seen roses that were kind of half purple, half fuchsia, and I thought they were so badass that I wanted to show them to you guys. I also wanted to thank everybody that came out to the War Room last week, and also everybody that just scanned the QR code and made big and small donations to the fundraiser for the Run to Home Base that weren't able to join us, but just made donations. I really, really appreciate it. Donna says, I love the vase. We need to get those inserts. Those are beautiful, gorgeous, like you and your purple hair. Thanks, Jessica. Let's see. I need to find that whiskey. The blueberry cobbler was awesome, says Denise. So if you go on the Regimental Spirit website, they have a list of all of the places that you can find it. And I wish I had a bottle next to me right now, but they're on the shelf in the bar of the War Room. The bottle is molded off of like a World War II military canteen, and the cap of the canteen serves as a shot glass as well. So they put a lot of thought into the look, the brand. Obviously, it was started by 2 combat veterans, so they really wanted every aspect of it to reflect the support for the military. And so the bottle is actually shaped like a canteen, which is pretty cool. But if you go to the website, it lists all of the different package stores, a lot of the PXs and commissaries where you can go and actually get the Regimental Spirit whiskey. So definitely go on the website. All right, ticket giveaway time. If you do not have a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass, but you would like to get your hands on some free tickets to see Avenged Sevenfold and Alexixonfire at the Xfinity Center coming up July 19th, here's what you got to do. Go to mistresscarrie.com, click the Message the Studio button at the top. It's going to ask you to send me a message. In the subject, put A7X, and then make sure you give me your full name and your email address, and tell me that you want to go see Avenged Sevenfold. And I got a nice little brick of tickets, so I am going to be able to fill a lot of these ticket requests. So if you do not have Avenged Sevenfold tickets and you want free Avenged Sevenfold tickets, this is on a first come, first serve basis. So if you want to guarantee that you're going to get some, do this before the end of the show, but definitely get your request in there. I reached out to the band. They hooked me up with a bunch of tickets, and I want to be able to send as many members of the War Room family as I can to make sure that I'm taking care of you guys as often as I can with free tickets. So if you want to go see Alexixonfire and you want to see Avenged Sevenfold, go to mistresscarrie.com, click the Message the Studio button, put A7X in the subject, make sure I get your full name and your email address where I can send the tickets, and I will fill as many of these as I can, first come, first serve, until I run out of tickets. Carol wants to know when the next War Room event is. Carol, I don't know yet, but I do definitely want to put something together, probably like closer to Labor Day, definitely end of the summer. I think the rest of the summer, I'm going to be so busy with events for the different radio stations, all of the concerts that are coming around, a little vacation time I'm going to be taking later this summer. I think it's definitely going to be fall, but I don't know yet, but I'll definitely let you guys know. It's the Mistress Carrie drink, not the blueberry cobbler. No, isn't that what they called it? The Mistress Carrie Blueberry Cobbler? I thought that's what they called it. Well, it's made with blueberry puree, which is why it's delicious. What's up, Denoto? Says, thank you, Carrie, for supporting our veteran-owned regimental whiskey. Happy birthday, America. Eric, will you let everybody know where they can get the whiskey around here? If you've got a link to where they can search, or if there are specific places in and around Massachusetts, people are asking. I want to make sure that if they want to go and find the whiskey, that they can definitely find it. So, Donato, if you don't mind putting that in the link, that would be great. By the way, little tribute to you tonight. There you go. Let's see. The General's drink last week was so good, says Mark. Yeah, and how funny was General Hammond's face when I told him that we put the Blueberry Cobbler reference on the back of the War Room t-shirts, and then I showed it to him and gave him one? Priceless. He immediately was like, we shut all that down, right? I'm like, I know you did. It didn't happen on your watch. I'm just saying. Blueberry Cobbler, still funny. Too bad they don't have it in Connecticut. Michelle, did you check the website? Are you sure they don't have it in Connecticut? Late to the party tonight. Happy 4th, everybody. What's up, Julia? New Hampshire liquor stores sell the regimental whiskey. Thank you, Melissa, for that nugget of information. There's definitely places you can find it, but I know you can get it on the regimental website. So want to remind you guys about all of the stuff that you can do on the website, including shop in the online Mistress Carrie store. And we are working on some new merch ideas. The last Backstage Pass live stream definitely got some new ideas on stuff. And so I am doing a little R&D on merch ideas right now. But I can tell you that if it is in stock on the website, it is in stock in the store. So if the website lets you order it, it's because we actually have it. Once I run out of something or a certain size, it gets pulled off the website. If you do not have a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass yet, not only do you get access to the exclusive live streams, but you find out what guests I've booked for the podcast so you can submit podcast interview questions. I give you travel blog updates, which is going to be very important in the coming weeks. You get early access to event tickets and event planning information. So if the event is free, like last week, you know about it way in advance. You also get merch, discount codes, and exclusive concert ticket giveaways. And if you are just joining us here in the War Room, you have access to Avenged Sevenfold tickets tonight. But if you have a Backstage Pass, not only do you have access to Avenged Sevenfold tickets, but you have access to Bret Michaels Party Gras tickets, Mudvayne tickets, Ghost tickets, Gojira and Mastodon tickets, and Nickelback tickets. So if you don't have a Mistress Carrie Backstage Pass, go to patreon.com/Mistress Carrie or just go straight to mistresscarrie.com. And just a final reminder that the Cameo videos are back up and running now that I got a new phone and an updated app and everything. We troubleshooted exactly why the Cameo app wasn't working before. And also just all the places you can find me: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Cameo, YouTube, and of course, Patreon. And if you want to listen to some of the New England radio shows, you can download the Pike app and hear me from 100 FM The Pike every weekday afternoon. And if you download the Bone app, you can hear me every weekday afternoon on 106.3 The Bone in Portland, Maine. So there you go. Go to the website and look. They have it all over here in my town, and we're in the middle of nowhere, says Rachel. Jonathan says size shouldn't matter. Jessica says Travis Barker's wife, Courtney, is pregnant. Oh, she announced it. Blink-182 video style, holding up a big sign like they did in the video that says, Travis, I'm pregnant, which is kind of hilarious. Annette says, happy 4th. Happy 4th to all of you guys. Don't forget Des Rocks, episode 161 of the podcast goes live at midnight tonight. And if you have a Backstage Pass, I might be sharing some super adorable baby and pug photos pretty soon because there's a baby in the house. All right, guys, I have to run because I am pulling double duty for Westwood One this week. So not only am I doing afternoons on the Bone and the Pike, but I'm also doing morning drive around the country this week. So I've been getting up at 0 dark ass crack and doing the show in the morning and then napping and then doing the shows in the afternoon. So this week is a tiring week, but this is what you got to do to earn time off later in the summer, which I am definitely doing. So I got to go because I got to do the sit rep and I got to get to bed because I got to be on the air first thing in the morning. So once again, I'll just put that the ticket giveaway info up there. So if you tuned in late, I want to give you one more chance. If you want to go see Avenged, Sevenfold, and Alexixonfire, July 19th at the Xfinity Center. Wednesday, come here. Go to mistresscarrie.com, click the message the studio button, put A7X in the subject line, make sure I have your full name and your email address, and as long as the ticket block that I have lasts, I will hook everybody that enters into... I'll get you into the Xfinity Center with a pair of tickets, and it's on a first come, first serve basis. So get your name in there right now, and good luck. I will see you guys here in the War Room next Tuesday night at 8:30 for episode 240 and episode 161 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. Goes live at midnight tonight with Des Rocks. Happy birthday, America. Good night, everybody. I'll see you guys next week.